Yeah, as you probably know from the news, and the small letters usually in the news, that's the tragic thing. There has been a lot of refugees that are coming to Greece, especially the last few weeks. Of course, it's not a new problem. It has been going on since there has been a war going on in our neighborhood, in the Middle East and in other places of the planet. What we say to people is that people who leave their homes, they don't leave their homes because they want to. They leave their homes because they have to. And because exactly Greece itself is a country of migrants and refugees. Our fathers and our forefathers have been migrants to Germany, for example, looking for a job when things were really bad in Greece, or before that, when there was war in the First World War. Most of our descendants has been refugees and migrants. So we actually feel the problem very much to our very backbone. What we do as a Communist Party, we try to address first of all the problem to the very people who live here, and they are not educated on the problem. All they see is people coming, but they never ask why are they coming here? Why do they leave their own countries? What is war? Why does it happen? So the first step in working with people is to explain to them exactly why these people have had to leave their houses. Why there is a war in their homelands, in Syria, for example, which is the biggest war zone at this moment near our neighborhood. That there are economic interests clashing, strategic interests clashing, and that they should be angry with them, not with the people who are the byproducts of this crisis and of this conflict. So first of all is to not educate, but to inform people of the real problems, the real reasons why people become refugees. War, economic interests clashing, and to orientate their efforts of the reaction towards these interests and not towards the people who come here. The second layer of issues, because it's a very complex issue, is it has to do with the politics of our government and the European Union in general. How do you deal with refugees? How do you deal with migrants? Because there are to an extent, there is room for maneuvering, and there's also room for building the infrastructures to welcome these people, to integrate them into local society, because it's a huge problem. The problem is that these people come here, they don't integrate them into society, and then they're complaining why they're not integrated. Why do they live outside the borders of society, of law, etc., etc.? But the problem is that you don't implement them into this. You don't give them the room and the space. They come here, they are hungry, they need to be fed, they need to be clothed, etc., etc. They're coming into a foreign land. It's very difficult to go to a foreign land that you don't know the language, you don't know anything. You are usually here because, well, they call them, they are slave traders who bring them here. There are huge economic interests behind that. And they keep them separated from the rest of the population. Why? Because if you keep them separated, it works both ways. For the locals, they're foreigners who just come here in order to take our jobs or whatever they put into minds of people. For them, they cannot come into contact with the locals in order to see who they are, work together, live together, struggle together, because we have the same problems in essence in the end of the day. And we as a working class movement and as a Communist Party, one of the basic things we're trying to do with migrants, with refugees, is not to have them separate, not to separate into locals and refugees, locals and foreigners. It's very important. We see workers, people who struggle for their everyday living, and those who exploit them in order to make profit. Now, they can be, both of them can be actually local, Greek or foreign, but they have the same interests. So that's what we say to people, and our people, the Greeks, and the people who come from abroad. We're trying to make them together, to live together. We have taken many actions to the extent that we can, because as I said, they don't let them have contacts with local people. We have places where we teach them Greek, we teach them their language. We have legal departments who try to help them out with legal issues what have to do with visas, what have to do with green cards, and so on and so forth. We're trying to help them in their workplace, which is usually as a ghetto, as also their living place, to show them that there is a union that cares for them, to actually enter the union. There are examples like that, and it's very encouraging. We have people from what is most difficult for them, for many reasons, because they're also afraid of deportation, they're afraid of the police, more than the local ones are. They're afraid of losing even the small salary that they have, because they get less than the locals. But they're afraid even of that because they have to feed their families. So there is progress, but of course there is a lot of people who come here every day and they don't stay here. They bring them to the port from the various islands that they manage to go, you know how. Many of them, their boats sinking, they lose family members. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy that they make it a show in the TV, but apart from that, nothing insubstantial is happening where it should be. For example, now we had about 500 people living in a square in the center of Athens. It started raining in the morning. In the night, they took them into a stadium to protect them from the rain. It has already rained. And now they put them outside again. That's not immigrant policy. This doesn't solve any problem. This is just pretend that there is no problem, and hope that somehow these people will go to the borders and become another country's problem. That's the policy of the Greek government at the moment. And the policy of the European Union, you know how it is. Most immigrants who come here and refugees treat Greece as a transit state. Of course, they cannot become a transit state because it's not allowed from the European Union. European Union, Dublin II, and all these laws say that refugees and migrants stay put at the point of entry. Of course, one country cannot solve the problem. But as I said in the beginning, the problem starts because there is a war. And not because these people suddenly decided one morning that they don't like to live in the places with their families and they decided to move. So the war is one problem, the migrant policy and refugee policy of the European Union and the Greek government is another problem, and how you treat these people and how you incorporate them into local society is the third layer of the problem. And this is all three that we're actually working at, to the consciousness of people, but also to have practical results on the ground, because theory is good, but practice is even better. What we are saying to people and trying to root in their consciousness regarding the refugee issue, but also the migrant issue, and generally speaking, is that war is the mother of all of these things that they see around, the problems, migration, refugee, etc., etc. Why is war in this particular region? There is war because there is a conflict of interests. Now, a conflict of interests of whom? European interest, US interest, etc., etc. So, if you, and it's not a problem that is far away. It's not that far away. The refugees who come here is a very living proof of this problem. And you cannot be angry with the refugees without wondering and being angry at the one who creates the problem. And who is that who creates the problem? It's the European Union with its policies and the conflict of interests with the United States, Russia, you know this. Everybody has an interest in that part of the world. The problem is that actually real people are getting hurt because of this conflict of interest. They think, of course, of geostrategics, they think of oil, they think of resources, but in the end, it's people who actually, their lives who are being affected. So what we're saying is there is a direct link between, if you want to stop having refugees, you need to stop having wars and poverty. If you want to stop having wars and poverty, you have to stop having this exploitation system that creates wars and poverty. And this exploitation system is based and is formed in unions, in frameworks. One framework is the European Union, the way it works. We don't have a problem with the European Union as a union of peoples, obviously. We have the problem of the European Union as a union of interests, of high economic interests, strong economic interests, they don't care about anything that has to do with people's lives, pain, misery, poverty, unemployment. That's why we live in the richest corner of the planet, but we still have 500 million under the poverty line. You don't have to go to Syria to find poor. You can find them in your own neighborhoods, in Germany, in Greece, everywhere. And of course NATO. And NATO as an aggressive imperialist, we say, organization, mechanism, which they want to enforce it now. And they want to make an extra military base in one of the Greek islands. And what we're saying is, these are the people, these are the forces that create all of the problem. Don't support it, but work against it. And in the end of the day, people don't have anything to separate. As long as they realize and they focus their energy towards the real enemy. And the real enemy is not the poor guy who risks their lives and the lives of their family to save them from a war zone. The real enemy of the people is the one who exploits their labor, their lives in order to create profit, even if they are from their own country or if they're from another country. Well, I'll say something that one German guy said 150 years ago, and it's new now as it was new then. Workers all over the world unite. I have nothing else to say from the point of view that we are the ones who make the wealth. They are the ones who are being exploited. The solution to our problems is to be against those who create the exploitation, not to be against the other ones who are being exploited. So the guy with the beard, I have to say, your guy, Karl Marx, said it really well 150 years ago. All we have to do is remember and make it our own consciousness.